And now we're going to be making our front face of the Lasercut box. So let's start by reminding ourselves of how the joint works between the front face and the side face, if it'll focus someday, and the bottom face. So the important thing about the dimensions is that, remember that this part is 0.11 inches thick. And so that means that the depth of this cutout needs to be 0.1 as well, 0.11. The other thing is the dimension from that corner to there and across the bottom. So let's say that that is 0.2 inches right there. I think it's actually a little less on this one, but just for example, then that would mean that this is 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, and 1.0. And 1.0 is 5 times 0.2. 5 times 0.2 equals 1.0. And the key thing to notice here is that you always have an odd number for the multiple of the finger width. So that in other words, to say the height from here to here is always going to be an odd multiple, and the width from here to there is always going to be an odd multiple of the finger width. So if we go in with that knowledge, our design work is going to be a lot easier. And now we're in Solidworks and we're ready to make our part. So let's click on a new part, and it's a part that we want. And the very first thing to check is your units. So down here are the units, and let's work in the English system. So if you have one of the others selected, check IPS now. That'll change it. Okay, so let's start by going to the features menu and do an extruded base. It's actually a front, but it's the equivalent. So there's our front plane. We're going to make a rectangle. And we can either use the corner or the center corner. I'll use the center this time, so we see how it works. And that means that you first click the center, and it's very helpful to put that on the origin, so I see it orange. And then I drag this out. And we're not trying to hit exact numbers here. We're going to always dimension those in just a bit. So click anywhere you like. And now go to Smart Dimension. And one cool thing about parametric modelers like Solidworks is that you can enter the dimension using an equation. So I don't have to use my calculator necessarily. I know that this number needs to be 0.2 times some odd number. So let me try 21. Let's see what that does. 4.2. Okay. And let's see, I could also try 0.2 times 23, 0.2 times 23, and that'll be 4.6. Okay, that sounds fine too. I would suggest no bigger than 5. I mean, 5 is fine. You could go a little bigger if you really want to, but the box will be a little less stiff the bigger it gets with this wall thickness. And now we want to also do the similar procedure for this one. So this will be 0.2. And as far as the height goes, you could either do a golden ratio. If I were to do golden ratio, I would do it this way. 4.6, that's the bottom, divided by 1.62. And let's see what that comes out to be roughly. Around 2.84. Now let's find an odd multiple of 0.2 that will get us near that. So 0.2 times, I'm going to guess 15. Too big. Okay. 0.2 times 13. Oh, close enough for me. So that will be our dimensions, and the fingers will come out the way we want. Now I'd also consider what you're going to put into the box for your dimensions, of course. So if you're going to put small items, then you probably don't want a very deep dimension, because small items are going to go to the bottom and if you put stuff on top of them, then they're going to get lost. So in this case, that's why I have a relatively short box, if I chose that. Basically, you can do whatever dimension that you want. So with the consideration of it being a shorter box, I'm going to make this just a little shorter. So I think I did 2.6. So if I pull off 0.4, that'd be 2.2. That would be another way to do it. I know that's going to be an odd number. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, that looks reasonable to me. But this is all personal aesthetic, so feel free to take different numbers, of course. So now we have our basic dimensions of the box, and we know that our 0.2 is going to work out by the fingers. And now we want to be able to modify these square faces, just the plain edge, so we have fingers. Okay, so let's start by making some cutouts. So go to the line tool there, and we're going to make a cutout for the bottom to come in. Now here's something to note. Notice when I start dragging up, it's going to try to hit that diagonal. I don't want to hit the diagonal because that will force it to always stay on the diagonal. So either go above or below it for the this cutout. It doesn't matter which you do because we're going to dimension it later. I'll go above just for clarity. Okay, then we'll go over, and again I don't want to hit that diagonal. And there, and there. And that's all I need to do so far. So I'm going to hit escape, and now we're going to do some trimming and some setting of dimensions. Okay, so smart dimension. I'm going to make this height equal to the thickness of my material. So that's the cutout for the bottom. And I'm going to make, let's see, now you notice I was about to click on that right there, but see how the whole orange line is selected? So that means it won't work to get the dimension from there to there by clicking on that line. It would work if I trimmed this first, so let's do that. Actually, let me show you how you would do it. You just need to grab the endpoints. So hit the endpoint there, hit the endpoint there, and voila. So that's 0.2. Okay, and now this line is unambiguous. If you click on it, it has to be 0.2. But you could either set it to 0.2, or another way is turn on the selection tool, select both of them. We're not ready to do that yet because see, I try to select that and it wants to do the whole line. So let's trim first. Okay, so we go to trim entities, and I usually find the most useful one is trim to closest, which is selected. And now if I click this, it's going to trim everything within, not including dimensions. It ignores dimensions for this. And so now I can set that line length equal to that line. So I go back to my selection tool and click that, and shift click that to select them both. I held the shift key down when I hit that, and just make those equal. And since we have defined that one, it will force that one to be equal to that one, and not the other way around. Okay, so that is our basic pattern that we need, and we want to, that's the basis for the pattern. We want to pattern that down. So now I'm going to delete this line segment because this is just going to be in my way. It's going to be overlap. So I'm going to click on it. It's blue, delete. Now I'm ready to select these. So I could click and drag from left to right like that, and that would get them all. Okay, I think that also selected the, no, it didn't select the dimension. Okay, now I'm ready to do my pattern. So with that selected, actually I need to get out of, let's see, where am I right now? I'm just in selection. So let's try clicking linear sketch pattern. Let's see if it'll take me there. Yes. And it automatically populated the entities that I want to pattern. Certainly you could have hit that first and then selected them. Nothing wrong with that. But those are my lines I want to pattern. The direction I'm patterning is the X direction. The spacing, so this is the spacing of the pattern. Now since I have one line segment that's 0.2 and another that's 0.2, I want the next instance of this unit to start 0.4 away from that starting point. So that means that my spacing is 0.4. And the number of them, now they're hard to see, they're in yellow there. Okay, that's just one of them, so that's because this is 2. And so now I want to make it go to the end. So let's see, I'm just going to take a guess of 11 and see where that gets me. That is correct, yeah. The way you know is take the odd number that you used to go from here to here, divide that by 2, and then go down to the next integer. So I had 23 for my width from there to there. Divide by 2, that's 11.5. 1 down from that's 11. And I'm going to manually fill in this last one. So if we're happy with that pattern, so let's click check to accept the pattern. And now let's just finish that line segment. So yellow dot or orange dot, and that is 0.2. That will be set because of the 4.6. All right, so now we've got the fingers for the bottom, and we want to do the fingers for the left and the right side. So let's do it for the left side, and then we'll mirror it to the right. So it's exactly the same procedure. I'll try to go through this quickly for the sake of time. Make sure I've got my line selected. Okay. Now you need to be careful here a little bit. See how it's grabbing onto that width 0.2. I don't want that. I want to go something either less or more because it needs to be 0.11. So there, there, and there. Make sure those are all square. Okay, now I'm going to hit escape to get out of the line command. I'm going to trim. So trim entities, 2 closest. I'm going to trim that one away, and I won't need that anymore, so we'll trim that away. While we're at it, why don't we just trim that one? Okay, because we're going to mirror this over there. And we're done with trim. Now we're ready to dimension, and assuming we use the same finger width, we can set these equal as well. So I'm already in the selection tool, so I want to set that dimension equal to the length of this one. So I'm holding Shift key down to select that second one. So I've selected 2, and I want to make them equal in length. And actually I want to make one more equal. So I'm still in this entity selection, so I just can do that. Now I have 3 of them. I'm going to set those equal again. Okay, now those are all 0.2, and I only had to define one of them. And so let's get out of that, and let's do it again for the 0.1. So that dimension, and that dimension. Those are all light blue, so they're all selected. I want all 3 of those to be equal. And it's forcing these to be equal to that one because this is the one that's been defined. All right, green check. So now we're ready to pattern that up. So let's select that. So I could drag from right to left like that, and that's going to select all of the entities that were at all within the right-left selection window. And now I'm ready to pattern up. Let's go back to that. Okay, so this is 11 times 0.2. Let me get out of, I'm in the selection. Anomaly, let me go to linear pattern. So since those have been selected, it's going to automatically populate this right here. Now you have to think a little bit. It's ready to pattern this on the x-axis, and if you look close, the yellow lines are going that way. So that's the default. And so this can be confusing. How do you get out of this? Just change that to 1. Now you only have one pattern in the x, and it does nothing. Now what we want to do is pattern in the y direction. And we're a little confused at first because this is gray. And it's gray because there's only one here. So let's change this to a number bigger than 1, and in fact we can calculate it. We know that it was 11 times 0.2 to get to the top. Divide that by 2, that would be 5.5. So we should need 5 of these patterns. Now this is still gray. Once you hit the 5, if you then click on this, it will now become white. And our spacing, of course, is 0.4, just like before. And so now the yellow patterns are going to be spread out. Very good. And we just need to manually complete it. Okay, so that's the linear pattern in Y. And now let's complete it with a line segment. Orange, make sure it's on the dot, and orange. Okay, so we've done the left side, and basically the hard work's done. Now we're going to mirror. So you can either select these first, or I'll do it this time a different way. We'll click the mirror first. Now we need to populate this region here. So this says select entities to mirror and a sketch line or model edge to mirror about. Okay, so that'll be the mirror plane, and this will be the entities. So I could either click on these individually, or I can save myself a lot of time if I select them all. Now I'm dragging from left to right, so now they have to be all entirely within the selection box. And any line that's not entirely within that selection box will not be selected. So when I release, the top line and the bottom line were not included, and that's what I wanted. But everything inside is included. So that left to right and right to left technique is very handy. Okay, now we need a line to do about, and let's see if we can do this without doing a center line. No, we're going to have to put a center line in. So I don't think there's any way, yeah, there is no vertical line yet. So I was a little premature in this, so I'm going to cancel. Let me see if I can, I don't think it's going to let me. Yeah, so I'm going to undo that. It probably just failed to do the mirror feature. I need to put a center line in. Okay, so here's the center line. And click on the center of the part. That's why this kind of rectangle is handy. And then click here, it's found the midpoint, so you know that line is vertical. Alternatively, you could just hold it up here and you get the inference line, so you know it's vertical. Okay, and then I hit cancel or escape to get out of that. So now let's mirror again. Oh, now see, I accidentally selected line 73 and it populated it. I don't want to mirror the mirror line. I want to get rid of that. So I'm going to right click and say either delete or clear selections. Now I'm going to populate this with what I want. See, I make mistakes because we all make mistakes and we learn from them. Alright, so that's the left to right selection box. Everything's inside it. It's all blue. It's all populated. And now I can select my mirror line. Orange, ready to be selected. Blue, light blue, it is selected, populated. And when I check, oh, you can actually see it already. You see the yellow pattern appear there. Alright, so that wasn't too hard. We only had to dimension a few things, and the rest was done with patterns and mirrors. So now we're ready to exit our sketch and set our thickness. So let's do that. Exit sketch. And our thickness is 0.11. That's the thickness of the wood. Okay, and a blind is fine. Check. And there's our basic first part. So on yours, I encourage you to use whatever dimensions you want and proportions. Your constraints would be the overall width. 4 to 5 is nice. 3 is probably fine on the small side. The width of each of these segments, 0.2 works well. 0.1 would be fine. Maybe up to 0.4 or so. And you don't have to be even. The math is a little more complicated if you make that width different than that width, but it's certainly not difficult math. You know, it's just addition and multiplication. Okay, so now the next step would be to do pattern, but I think we'll do that, the design on it, but we'll do that as another video.